Welcome back to the podcast. Mark here.
And Jenny. We've got something interesting brewing today, Mark.
Oh man, right? This is the cool part. ESG reporting software. Sounds maybe a little dry at first blush? Like spreadsheets and compliance?
Right? ESG, environmental, social, governance, has been on everyone's radar for a while now. But the reporting time software? That feels like getting down into the engine room of how companies actually times it.
Exactly. And we just saw some fresh data, specifically on the US market for this stuff. Markets and Markets put out a report talking about this, hitting $0.71 billion by 2029, which, okay, $0.71 billion doesn't sound like an asterisk in the grand scheme.
Okay, $0.71 billion. Coming from $0.35 billion this year, 2024. That's a decent jump, though. Over 5 years, that's a 15.2% compound annual growth rate, right? More than doubling.
Yep, 15.2%. Now here's the thing. Some other reports out there, like from Technavio, see even bigger growth, closer to 21%, and a larger market size globally by 2029, like way bigger markets, measured in billions. Not fractions of a billion.
Okay, wait, so we have different numbers floating around. Why the difference? Is someone exaggerating?
Good question. It usually comes down to scope. Markets and Markets is focusing specifically on the US market in this report, like just times the software component. Others might be looking at the global picture, which is obviously much larger and has different regional drivers, different regulations.
Ah, okay. So even just within the US, a market set to almost double in 5 years for just the software? That tell you something's pushing this hard.
Something big. And it boils down to regulation, mostly. The SEC's climate disclosure rules, which really started kicking in this year for public companies, are a major catalyst. Companies have to start reporting their greenhouse gas emissions now.
And it's not just federal, right? States are getting in on it too?
Absolutely. California has COVALENTS 1B253 and SB 261. Which dig into those Scope 3 emissions. Basically, emissions across a company's entire value chain, from suppliers to customers. And New York has its own climate goals. This fragmented regulatory landscape. It's complex. Imagine trying to keep up with all of that manually.
Seems like a massive headache without some kind of software to manage it all, honestly. Okay, so the E in ESG is getting a huge regulatory push. What about the S, social, and G, governance?
That's where the software really comes into its own, and frankly, becomes truly useful. It's not just about tracking carbon numbers. These platforms help companies collect data on things like workforce diversity, supply chain ethics, community impact. You know, the S stuff. And governance metrics too.
So it's helping companies get a handle on things like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, reporting, and even tracking compliance with things like the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, stuff that's harder to put a number on sometimes?
Precisely. The software helps streamline all of that data collection and reporting, which, let's be honest, is overwhelming to do manually. It helps align companies with established frameworks like SASB and GRI2, which is important for investors and stakeholders.
That makes sense. So who are the big players in this space that the report mentions, like the companies selling this engine room tech?
The usual suspects you'd expect in enterprise software. NASDAQ, Workiva, Diligent, IBM. They're kind of leading the charge in providing these comprehensive software solutions.
Comparing those players, Workiva seems to be known for its integrated reporting platform, bringing together financial and non-financial data. Like connecting the dots. NASDAQ, of course, has that tie-in to financial markets and regulatory reporting.
Right. Workiva seems to be praised for adapting to dynamic U.S. regulations, which is necessary with all the state variations. Diligent, for instance, has a stronger focus in Europe, where ESG reporting matured earlier. They all have different strengths and, honestly, different pricing models and different levels of AI capabilities.
AI capabilities? How does AI fit into ESG reporting software? Is it just fancy data sorting?
This is where it gets a little more interesting. AI is being used for everything from parsing tons of unstructured data, like news articles or social media mentions, which fall under the S and G, for things like risk modeling, To predictive analytics. Imagine using AI to predict potential supply chain issues based on ESG factors like water scarcity or labor disputes in a certain region. It's a huge future trend in how these platforms will evolve.
Okay, that's a little more intriguing than just data entry. Like, forecasting risk based on non-financial data. Speaking of industries, the report highlighted retail and consumer goods as a high-growth sector for this software. Why retail? My first thought isn't usually cutting-edge compliance tech.
Because consumers are demanding it. People want to know how their clothes are made, where their food comes from, the environmental footprint of the products they buy. This is especially true for younger generations. This pressure from consumers pushes retailers and consumer goods companies to be transparent about their supply chains and practices.
So they need the software to track things like ethical sourcing, child labor risks, and product lifecycle assessments, even for something simple like a t-shirt?
Exactly. The FTC even has green guides to prevent companies from making misleading environmental claims, which requires proof and verification. Retailers' adoption of these tools demonstrates real progress and a response to market forces, not just regulators.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just regulators, it's consumer pressure too, shaping where this tech is being adopted quickly. But, and here's my skeptical journalist hat coming on, could this software also enable greenwashing? Like, making things look better than they are?
That's a really important ethical consideration, isn't it? If the software design focuses too much on easily quantifiable metrics, say energy usage or tons of carbon, and less on qualitative social impacts like genuine community engagement or addressing actual wage gaps, it could give a skewed picture of a company's efforts.
So, companies could potentially tick the boxes that the software makes easy to measure without truly addressing the deeper, messier issues, like report on emissions but ignore labor practices?
Potentially, yeah. And the lack of robust, third-party verified audit trails in some platforms? That definitely raises questions about reporting integrity. Verification of the data, especially the non-financial data, is still a developing area and a challenge.
Okay, that's crucial to keep in mind as this market grows and matures. We need to watch out for how this tech is wielded. What else are you seeing on the horizon for this space, beyond AI and the ethical challenges?
Beyond the ATI and predictive analytics we touched on, there's a rising demand for interoperability. Think about it. Companies have financial systems, HR systems, supply chain systems. They need these ESG systems to talk to their existing ERP and HR systems seamlessly. APIs and really solid integrations are becoming critical.
So making sure all those different pieces of software within a company can share data easily without needing manual data entry between them, that sounds like a must-have for efficiency.
Definitely. It's a complex landscape, no doubt, driven by regulation, consumer demand, and technological advancements. The U.S. ESG reporting software market doubling in 5 years, even with the nuances of different reports, it's a clear indicator of just how important this is becoming for businesses to manage their non-financial impacts and risks.
Well, that was a truly deep dive into the engine room of ESG. Thanks for breaking it down, Mark, and making it sound less dry than spreadsheets.
My pleasure, Jenny. Always fun to get into the tech details and see how it actually affects the real world.
And thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.